Hello and welcome to today's virtual happy hour tour. I am Brenda with AARP Arizona. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 right here in Arizona, we work to strengthen our communities and we advocate for what matters most to families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment, to name a few. In May, AARP helps consumers know what they can do to protect themselves and their loved ones from fraud. Two areas of focus will be gift cards as a form of payment and scams, and narrative change to social change. AARP is your wise friend with resources to help consumers spot and avoid scams, and a fierce defender that is advocating for better protections on your behalf. Please visit us at aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. Thank you again, and with that, I will turn it over to Marshall.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy you can be here. Oh my gosh, we've got a great show for you this evening. So my name is Marshall Shore. I want to welcome you all, no matter what platform you're watching on, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, or even Facebook. So happy you're here for May 18th of 2023. I mean, here we are halfway through May. Wow, this year is just zipping on by. And so let's talk a little bit about kind of what's going on today. Well, some people say in concerts, maybe they've seen Led Zeppelin, Elvis, but did you know on this date back in 1973, you could be watching the Osmonds at Tucson's Community Arena. It opened up in 71 and has hosted many different acts. Now, it's said that those gleaming white teeth showed up on stage. They ended with dressed in white, passing out white scarves that they would hand out to all the young women who would come to cheer them on. After the concert was done, there was a long line of fans bringing them stuffed animals, love letters, and so much more. Were you there in that audience? So it is also Aperitif Day. So, that's a refreshing alcoholic drink that is, said to stimulate the appetite. And whether you're using Campari, Aperol, they're also or even you can have them in a martini, all kinds of things. They are really tasty. It is also I Love Reese's Day, which is one of my favorite. And so, it was created back in 1928 by H.B. Reese. Who knew there was a Mr. Reese? And he made some peanut butter cups, and they became quick favorite in America. And they are still one of the top selling candies today. And they keep expanding that brand, doing all kinds of wonky things with them. So, if you like Reese's peanut butter cups, they have all kinds of concoctions now with them, with pretzels and the nuts and all kinds of things. And it is also National Museum Day. So since 1977, museums across the country have been looking at today, doing special events to try and entice folks to come in and just take advantage of that opportunity to learn about history, agriculture, fashion, whatever that museum specializes in or has on display. Great day to go for it. As well as this month is also Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Now, this originated back in 1977 as a way to celebrate Asians and Pacific Islanders. Now, it's a broad term that encompasses a lot of places, and we're going to talk about some of those places in just a little bit. So what can you expect tonight? Well, we do have a little bit of trivia coming up. We have From the Vault, which is something you might have driven by and not known what it was. We also do a little bit of Arizona music history, as well as a little Arizona and a beverage. And of course, we have some super special guests, but more on that in just a few minutes. So if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, my name is Marshall Shore, and I got to Arizona about 23 years ago. I was living and working in Brooklyn at a beautiful Carnegie building, but you know, all that snow and slush and wind drove me to someplace sunny. That brought me right here to Phoenix, where I was working in South Phoenix in a little library that had a rich oral tradition of the community. And so I really started learning about Arizona from other folks, and I still do that exact same thing today. Now, we promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch house. It is kind of a time capsule. When we moved in, it was lots of beige. I'm happy to say now it is two-tone, seafoam and cantaloupe. And there's what my kitchen looks like today. It is indeed a time capsule with appliances from the era that still work. I make my tea on it every day. So I love my little kitchen. And so, you know, as soon as we moved here, all I kept hearing about was how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true, because every time I would go get on a bike, in a car, on a bus, on a scooter, it didn't matter where I was going, I kept running into so many amazing people, places, and stories. And so my name is Marshall Shore. I also go by the Hip Historian, which means I get to play with Arizona history. And why, coming up just the end of this month, we have the last of the season, our haunted history tour of downtown Phoenix. That is May 27th. Because after that, it'll be too warm, no matter what time you do it. As well as coming up next week, I'm so excited because actually at least one of our guests is going to join us at the Stone, because we are having a great little kind of a family style lunch and learn, where we're going to talk about the food, some of the culture, and the fact that it is Asian Pacific Heritage Month. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So I see some of you have already found the chat. You can always reach out to me through the various socials if you'd like to do that. If you have something after the show, maybe you have an idea for a great guest. Well, you know, I love chatting with you. So there you go. All right. So little Arizona. So, you know, I love the fact that Arizona has so many little places all around. And so we are going to talk about a place that was called Big Bug Station. It's now called Mayer, Arizona, as well as something I'm not even going to try and pronounce in the Yavapai language. But so it was originally named by someone named Joe Mayer, because he was living in Globe and was looking for an easy way to get to Prescott back in the 1880s, and wound up at Big Bug Station and fell in love with it and wound up buying it and moving his family to it. I have a feeling they were thrilled with that move. And so it now has a population of just over 1,800 people and was founded back in 1882. And if you go driving through Mayer, you'll notice that all the buildings, even though it was founded in 1882, there was a fire that pretty much burnt down everything in the 1890s. And so most of the buildings are after that. So as you go driving around town or walking around, because it's indeed a very walkable city, you'll find things like the hotel, the schoolhouse. And this is the train station from Mayer, which actually now sits in Phoenix. Back in the early 60s, Fred Geary designed a house that included that train station that he brought in all the way from Mayer and hauled up the hill. And so you can still go see it today. It is over on Northern Avenue near the Piestewa Freeway. It also was a site where, as Japanese Americans were being moved to internment camps, they were in holding areas. And for about a month, there was a building here that held a group of Japanese Americans before they moved on to Poston. All right. So now we get to talk a little bit about the beverage. So tonight we are doing a Scottsdale Spritz. And look, I even get garnish today. So I have a little bit of an orange and some rosemary. And so in this, we have Aperol because it's an aperitif, as well as Celli Limoncello, which is made locally, a little bit of blood orange, and some simple soda company grapefruit, also local, and a splash of Prosecco. Those little bubbles in the Prosecco are quite tasty. All right. Well, now we get to move on to my favorite part of the show, is because you get to hear from other folks other than just me. So I want to bring on our very special guest. Hello. Let's see, what can we do with that? There we go. All right. So Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Marshall. Yeah, so my name's Anthony Ampongpong. I am a first-generation Laotian American here in Arizona. I was born and raised, and I've been a part with the Asian Chamber for the better half of about like 6.5 years or so, and I'm now the executive director with the Asian Chamber.
Wow. And Brandy?
Hello, so my name is Brandy Abu-Dramari. I am also first-generation Palau American Pacific Islander. I born and raised here in Phoenix, and I've been with Asian Chamber for I think almost 2 years, and I'm the chief of staff.
Wow, very cool. Well, I am so excited to have you on as we get a chance to talk about some of the history in Arizona of kind of the Asian Pacific Islander communities. So now we always do trivia. So now our trivia is a little more unique than if you're used to bar trivia, because we focus on the answers. So we have a series of questions that are all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answer, just take a guess and you might be right. And, you know, I know Anita has her special notebook. She likes to write down all her scores in. Some folks keep track of their answers in the chat session. I've got one friend who likes to send it. He writes them on his arm or some appendage and sends me a photo of that. You can do whatever makes you happy, and no one's going to grade. Although at the end, I will ask you how you did. And so, all right. So without any further ado, let's get some trivia started. All right. So question 1, what year was the Asian Chamber of Commerce founded? Was it A, 1922, B, 1939, C, 1962, or D, 1993? So what year do you think the Asian Chamber of Commerce was founded? All right, moving on to question 2. How many businesses are currently in the Asian district? All right, do you think it is A, 29, B, 73, C, 106, or D, 114? How many businesses do you think are currently in the Asian district? All right, moving on to question 3. Which of these is a region of Oceania? A, Indonesia, B, Micronesia, C, Madagascar, or D, Northern Mariana Islands? So which one of those is a region of Oceania? All right, moving on. Here we are at question 4. Which of these countries is considered to be part of Indochina? A, India, B, China, C, Laos, or D, Reunion? Which of those countries do you think is considered to be part of Indochina? All right, question 5. What year was Angel Island created? Was that A, 1899, B, 1910, C, 1927, or D, 1958? So Angel Island was created in what year? All right. What was the name of the first Asian grocery store in Arizona? Was it A, Ong's Market, B, Tang's Market, C, Yee's Market, or D, Lee's Market? So which one of those do you think was the very first Asian grocery right here in Arizona? All right. Now I'm going to need some help in my pronunciation because I have no clue I will butcher these. So Anthony, Brandy, who wants to come on and help me pronounce these names?
I'll help you,
All right.
Marshall.
Very good. All right. So who was the last reigning monarch of Hawaii before it was annexed? And I will let you go through those answers because I don't even want to try.
So A is King Kamehameha V, B is Queen Kamehameha, C is Queen Liliuokalani, and D is King Lunalilo. See, even I butcher those sometimes.
Yeah, but you did much better than I would have done. So, all right. So which one of those do you think is the correct answer? Question 8. How many student organizations are under ASU's Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition? Is it A, 11, B, 18, C, 22, or D, 39? So how many student organizations are under ASU's Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition? All right. What percentage does the Asian Pacific Islander community make up in Arizona? Do you think it's A, 2.9%, B, 3.7%, C, 4.1%, or D, 5%? All right. And coming up to our last question, who was the first Asian American actor in Hollywood? A, was it Benson Fong? B, Anna May Wong? C, Haru Onuki? Or D, Arden Cho? So which one of those folks do you think was the first Asian American actor in Hollywood? All right. Well, while you are all locking in your final answers, we are going to take a little bit of an Arizona music break as we get a chance to talk about Haru Onuki. Well, you fancy that. She was just one of the answers. So you can cross her off the list. But she was from Phoenix, and she became a well-known opera singer doing Madame Butterfly. Back in about I think it was like 1925 was when she started hitting coast to coast and would even do like garden parties back in Jackson Heights, back in New York. So she was quite famous. She also was either, because I found references to either she dated or she married. I wasn't quite sure. You know, when you hear about Ripley's Believe It or Not, he may or may not have been her husband, believe it or not. But you know, depending on where you live, if you flick on your lights, you should thank her father. Her father was the founder of APS, Haruchio Onuki. So he basically started in the US by bringing Japanese items to the Philadelphia Centennial Expo, wound up here in Arizona becoming one of the founders of a company called Phoenix let me look at my notes. I almost said the wrong thing. Phoenix Illuminating Company that later on became APS. So back in the early 1890s. So there you go. A little bit of opera and power history all in one fail question. All right. So now we get to have some fun. So, all right. Who's ready for some answers? I know I am, and I'm sure Anita is. All right. So what year did the Asian Chamber of Commerce start? D, 1993. All right. So how did it start?
Hi. So, the Asian Chamber, it all started off as like in a sense, a group of individuals who wanted to really make a change with the community. Back in 1993, the community was much smaller than it is now, and there was a lot of movements happening and such. So actually, there was Jim Shi, who was the original founder, alongside with his wife, Marion Chidano, who was a Japanese American who was in the internment camps, and then we had Madeline Ong was also another individual who began Ten Namba. And it's grown so much since 1993. Our mission is to support, promote, and foster all businesses, and to build like cultural and educational relationships between the Asian Chamber members and the general public. We act as like a resource for different members of and all of businesses in the area, while providing like consulting and technical assistance to every business.
Nice. So what type of events do you guys do?
Yeah, so for events, we actually, this is a newer project. So our first night market originally began, I want to say, back in 2017. And it was a very new concept to act as a business incubator for Asian Chamber businesses. So we host yearly galas, which is just our fancy banquet for all of our sponsors, and then we also do the Asian District Night Market, or any type of night market in a sense, and it's intended to like replicate the street markets, like the street food that you often see in times Asian countries. And it is for a lot of the businesses don't necessarily have like a physical location, so we always encourage them to participate in the night market so that they can get a taste of what their business could look like in the future, and then we work with them every step of the way.
Oh, nice. That's great. All right. So within this, so how many businesses are currently in the Asian district? So first, where is the Asian district?
Yeah, the Asian district is on Broadway in Maine, and it stretches down to, or sorry, not Broadway, Dobson in Maine, and it stretches down to Dobson in Southern. So it's like that 2-mile corridor area. So if you kind of get a good perspective, it's like 2-mile stretch that has 106 businesses attached to it.
Wow, I didn't realize there were that many along that strip. That's amazing. And we're going to be at one of them next week, which I'm very excited about. So, all right. So which one of these is a region of Oceania?
Brain?
Yes, so the answer is Micronesia. So just a little back history on it. Before there was these three regions, we were just known as Oceania. We were just known as oceanic people before we were called Pacific Islands. We were just Oceania because there was no names. We didn't know names for oceans. We just knew that we were people of the ocean, therefore we were from Oceania. But when settlers started coming and started, settling on the islands, they divided the regions: Polynesia, Micronesia, Melanesia. Polynesia for big islands, Polynesia for many islands, and then Micronesia for small islands, and Melanesia are for islands where there were more darker skinned islanders, darker skinned inhabitants, therefore Melanesia. So, and I'm Micronesian. I'm from, I'm born and raised here, but my parents are from a small island called Palau, which is an independent nation, and we're Micronesia. So, and just a little backstory, I feel like especially a lot of people, when they think of islands, they used to think just Hawaii, but now they're starting to like get more knowledge of it. But now they just know Polynesia, so they just associate Polynesia with the rest of the islands, which isn't the case because I'm Micronesian, and then people who are like from Fiji are Melanesian, but they can also be Polynesian as well. But yeah, that's just like a little backstory on like the three regions and why they're called that. So if you ever hear islands like Guam or Saipan or Palau, those are Micronesia. Samoa, Tonga, Hawaii, those are Polynesia. Fiji, I think Fiji is the only one that I know that's Melanesia. But yeah, those are just like a little backstory of the three regions of the Pacific Islands and how we became the three regions, and little story about that.
So, Brandy, tell us a little bit about the kind of the food you grew up with.
I could tell you about that.
Yeah.
So when I was little, I think the interesting part about Palau specifically is Palau is, I think, the closest Pacific island to the Philippines. So a lot of food that I grew up with had Filipino influence, but at the same time, we during World War II, or kind of pre World War One, but during World War II, we were officially under the sovereign rule of Japan. So a lot of like food has been mixed with Japan influence, Filipino influence. But our main thing is seafood, like fish, like our natural, you know, so I grew up with a lot of seafood, a lot of fish. Our sides are not just rice, but our sides are like tapioca, taro, because that's what we can grow in like in the islands. But a lot of the food I grew up with is a lot of fish, a lot of barbecue, sashimi, like spam musubi, stuff like that. Let's see. I know we had a lot of pancit and lumpia, which is Filipino dishes. Um, and I remember when I was little, my mom, she used to always make udon, which is a soup, Japanese soup, but I always thought it was palau because because that's just one of our specialties. But yeah, our food is really like a big mix of like the different countries that either we were under rule over or that we were nearby. But a lot of it, you'll see a lot of fish, a lot of seafood for sure.
Wow, that's fascinating. All right. So which of these countries is considered to be part of Indochina?
Yeah, and the answer to that is Laos. I may have given this away with saying my ethnicity in the beginning, but
It's all good, you know.
Yeah, so like Laos is Indochina as an entirety was a name that was given to all the countries that France had owned during their initial colonization of Asia. So it part of all the countries in Indochina included like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. I believe Thailand was the only independent country at the time. And then I can never pronounce that country's name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Myanmar?
Yeah, Myanmar. That's what it. Yeah. So and Laos in amongst all of those countries is usually like the most underrepresented one. Like people have heard of like Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar. Actually, people probably haven't heard of, but Laos is definitely like one that gets outshadowed. So my family initially moved here during the Vietnam War, and they were all born in Laos. I was the first generation being born in the U.S. And yeah, again, it's just like a really, really small country. We share a lot of languages to Thailand and Cambodia, and yeah.
Now, wasn't there just a Laotian festival?
There was, yeah, actually, it was the very first Laotian
Oh, I remember it was
festival.
the first one.
Yeah, it was. So it was actually in California, and right now they're going on tour. I think they're going to be in Dallas and Chicago.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so it was a really big because it was intended as a music festival, and it was called like Lao Fest or Sabaidi Fest, sorry, which Sabaidi in Laos means hello. And yeah, it was they brought in all artists. They brought in artists from Laos slash Thailand, and then amongst like all the local artists that are here, like Dana Mar. Gosh, actually, he's probably the only Laotian artist that I know here. To be honest, we're a very small community here.
But I'm assuming that's changing. I mean, I know well, I guess we'll get into that in a follow-up question. I'm like, oh, I don't want to give away an answer now. It's like, okay, so let's hold off on that conversation. All right. So what year was Angel Island created? Now, I think before we do the answer, okay, where is Angel Island?
Yeah, Angel Island is actually the immigration station during post World War. It was a place where all of pretty much most of the Asian immigrants went to, and it was off the coast of San Francisco. And to the contrary, there's Ellis Island. Right, actually, is it San Francisco or is it LA? I forget. It's one of the cities in near California.
Ellis Island is New York.
Yeah, Ellis Island is all the way in New York.
Yeah.
Angel Island is either San Francisco or Los Angeles. I forget.
I think it's in the San Francisco Bay.
I'm pretty sure it's San Francisco.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure I fact check myself there. But yeah, so again, they were the main immigration station, and that's where a lot of the immigrants had to stay in order to get all of their paperwork in line before they were actually able to immigrate into the States itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and actually, so this was again post World War, but my family immigrated here a little bit after this, but they still had to go through Angel Island, so it was still active. But they immigrated over past or post Vietnam War, so that's when the Vietnam War was happening, there were a lot of refugees from a lot of the Indochina area, which included like Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and that is where like a big splurge of the Southeast Asian population started immigrating over to the United States, opposed to a lot of the Eastern countries like Japan, Chinese, and Korea. They immigrated around the time where Angel Island first came to be.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. I mean, especially with the war going on, everyone wanting to get out,
Yeah.
someplace safer. All right. So, question 6: what was the name of the first Asian grocery store in Arizona?
Yeah. The answer to that is C, Yee's Market. This was also otherwise known as Central Market, and it was right in downtown Phoenix. It was a really small market, and actually in the back is where, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but there was the first, gosh, what was it again? Why I just drew a blank on his name, but anyway. So like on top of this is like this supermarket is also where that family resided, and I kind of just wanted to put this in here too, just to kind of talk about like the overall growth, right? So this grocery store opened back up in the early 1900s, and now we have over, again, kind of bringing it back to like the Asian district, where that has become the new central hub of the Asian community. So like Mekong, which opened up in 2008, they were, alongside with maybe 5 other businesses, they were the only Asian supermarket really. There was Levy's that was much before, but Levy's didn't have a lot of neighboring businesses that were attached to the name. But Mekong really is what brought a lot of the community together, and that's where a lot of the businesses just naturally like gravitated towards over the years. And again, now we have over 100 businesses just in that 2-mile area.
Oh, so Mekwang was the first one, kind of, because I mean, I remember like going to Mesa Arts Center and being
Mhm.
able to stop at Mekwang and get dinner
Yeah.
before going to see the show or anything. And so that was always really nice. I didn't realize that was the first one kind of in that stretch.
Yeah, and again, that's just like where the Asian district is branded. But honestly, if you keep going down Dobson Road, you're gonna hit so much more businesses too that are
Right.
Asian
And it's not
owned.
like those are the only Asian markets or anything in town. I mean, it's like you've got
Yeah.
stuff also over in Glendale. There's stuff
Mhm.
all over the valley. Um, I mean, I'm basically like Vietnamese. I'm at like 97 Camelback, so you've got a couple Vietnamese markets right there. Um, and then as Andrew said, it's like, down in Tucson on 4th Avenue, they've got some markets down there. So, you can pretty much start finding things now instead of just
Mhm.
one place. It's now expanding kind of much more globally.
Yeah, and actually a little snippet into like our future plans as well. Right where you live on 19th Ave and Camelback, it's actually where we're working on the process of getting an international district there, which is going to be very similar to like the Asian district, but
How can I help? Because I mean, that's where this is why I'm here. Is because
Mhm.
moving from New York, I wanted to be in a place because this is the most diverse square mile in the entire city.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the things I loved about this neighborhood. I mean, the fact we've actually done global walking food tours with
Oh,
IRC,
okay.
because you can hit Vietnamese, Ethiopian, Salvadoran, basically then Vietnamese. I mean, you've got all these different things. And so we're getting like a little nosh here, going by, talking to the owners, and then moving on. So I am so excited to hear that.
It sounds like you need to give me a tour of that area because
When are you ready? Come on over. I mean, you've got like Teen and his family who run the market there at 17th Ave. I mean,
Mhm.
let's go. I mean, let's talk to
Okay.
IRC about that. I mean, they did a lot of microloans for most of those businesses.
Oh, okay.
And so, especially the global thing. So, I mean, I'm happy to facilitate that connection, because I would love. I'm always kind of amazed that we didn't get that designation earlier on, because
Yeah.
I mean, the city was touting us as that, but it was like there's nothing that says that other than if you're
Mhm.
living here and know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why the Asian district branding was such a big step forward for our community in a sense, because
Right.
this was our first like established district where we can really call it like our community center in a sense. So that has been around for, I think, since 2016 is when the initial conversation of the Asian district came to be, and then it wasn't until around like 2020 is where it actually officially became its own brand. And again, now we're planning on going over to the Phoenix area just because we know that that's where a lot of the community is as well. And sometimes coming over to the East Valley is a little bit far for a lot of the folks over on the West Side. So
If I can drive to the Stone for tofu,
right.
I mean, I've done that for lunch or dinner. Just be like, okay, that's what I really want. Um, it's like pre-COVID, they were doing the World Market at the train station at the park and ride there.
Oh
And so
yeah, yeah.
So, and I know during COVID they stopped that, but I mean, yeah, I mean, let's pull the city involved. I mean, let's get Lisa involved in that. I mean, she would, I'm sure, love, and Kimber. I mean, all that crowd.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
can you tell I'm excited?
No, when Anthony first brought the idea to me, I was like, oh God, I don't have to drive 50, 45 minutes to like the Asian District Night Market for all these like businesses. And also it's just nice to bring that sort of event to like this, like that side of town.
Oh, completely. I mean, that's one of the amazing things is there's such diversity kind of across the valley is you don't wind up in some other communities where you really have that Chinatown type place where everyone migrates to. I mean, here you've got folks, I mean, through the entire valley and across the state as well. But yeah, no, I mean, any help I can give you guys in trying to put this together, I'm more than happy to be a
really
part
great
of
to
it.
hear.
I mean, I that's why I love my community so much.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll have to talk about it over the Stone on this this upcoming Tuesday, right?
Indeed. No, that would be great. All right. So let's go on to, all right. So who was the last reigning monarch of Hawaii before it was annexed?
Yes, and the answer to that is Queen Liliuokalani, and she was the last reigning monarch of Hawaii before it was annexed by the United States. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is just to kind of showcase, it like obviously Hawaii is a state of the U.S., but like in being a state, it's really lost a lot of their touch with their culture, the native culture. A lot of like Hawaiians, native islanders of Hawaii have really lost touch of like their culture, and not only that, but in a way kind of have been exploited in a sense to promote that sense of paradise and promote this constant theme of paradise and like aloha theme. But in reality, like to this day, a lot of islanders are struggling. Now like you'll hear the term when islanders like when native islanders from Hawaii like they moved out and they ended up coming to stateside even because they are basically priced out of paradise. It's just gotten the poverty level for Hawaii is really made up of just native islanders. Like most of the poverty level is consisted of native islanders, and there's just a lot of it's been rough for the natives in Hawaii since the annexation, as far as like losing touch with their culture, being priced out of paradise, being exploited for their culture. But so that was just something that I kind of wanted to bring up just to like showcase some of the struggles that islanders have been going through. Yes, they like so a lot of if you look now in the stateside, there's a lot of islanders in the states, a lot of islanders in the states. I know that for Micronesians, there's a lot of them in the Pacific Northwest, and there's a lot of Polynesians around like the Utah, Colorado area, and you'll just see a lot of them. Basically, they've just been like, especially if they lived in Hawaii, they've been priced out of paradise, and they've come here because it's basically cheaper than it is to live in Hawaii. But so yeah, that was just something I wanted to like just slowly like just touch on a little bit regarding Hawaii and kind of like the history of U.S. or Western involvement in Pacific Islands.
No, and thank you very much for bringing that in as well. All right. And this, I was so excited to see this. So, okay. So how many organizations are under ASU's Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition, or for short, is there how do you, I mean, other than just like AAPASC? How do you say that? I'm sorry, Brandy.
APASC.
Oh,
APAS.
APAS. Ah, there
Yeah.
you go. Okay.
Yeah, so with APAS, this is an organization that's very close to both Brandy and I because we both were a part of APAS, or at least under like their umbrella for their student organization. And yeah, like honestly, so growing up in Arizona, right there, I grew up mostly in Gilbert. I did move around quite a bit, but you know, there's not a whole lot of Asian students, just let alone in like in my high school when I was attending. I was maybe one of like the 20 that could be accounted for. So definitely going to ASU or to any university for that matter, it quite literally is like a culture shock seeing how many like Asian Americans are also along like there with you. So you know, it was really easy to connect with a lot of the people there, and oftentimes like you know they shared in similar life experiences to you growing up, and it's very easy to become close to, or a lot easier to get close with a lot of the members there too. And it was really nice. Like you know, each student organization represents a different culture. So there's like PASA, which is the Filipino Americans. There's CHASA, which is the CHASA, which is the Chinese American. You know, there's CISA, which is the Southeast Asian. There's even VSA for Vietnamese specifically, and each one has like 100 members each, right? So
That's huge. I didn't realize that there were that many organizations or that many folks from such a variety of places. That's really cool. But yeah, I mean, it was like when I saw there were like 18 certain organizations underneath that umbrella, it was like, that's amazing.
And
yeah,
a
and
lot
this
of
is so go ahead, Brandon.
no, I was gonna say like especially in the past decade, it's grown. Like there's like a lot of clubs that just started themselves and really this like really facilitated like a lot of like new members in like for example like CISA, Southeast Asian American. That was started with me and my two roommates. One of my roommates is Cambodian, the other one is Vietnamese. And there was a VSA, the Vietnamese are that club that already existed, but my Cambodian friend who I've known since kindergarten, she wanted to start a club that like focuses on Cambodian culture, but at the same time there just wasn't that big of a Cambodian community that she knew about. So instead she wanted to start a club that focused on Southeast Asian culture specifically since they share more similarities than other organizations and other clubs, but at the same time, it sheds light on all of them equally. And so that's when me and my roommate helped her. We started that club in, I think, 2019. That's how I met Anthony, because he was kind of like he was one of the leading members of APASC organization as a whole. So we had to have help in getting started under their coalition. But in that first 2 years, I think our second meeting, because the second meeting is really the first meeting when when everybody like more consistent members show up. Second meeting, we had like, I think 4 people show up to our meeting. And then the last meeting that I remember having before COVID hit, which was, I believe like 2020, we had like 60 to 70 people.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like not only do these clubs develop so quickly, but the members that come in, like they wanted that when they hear about these clubs, then they want to start their own club. So it's definitely grown a lot in the past, like maybe 5 years.
That's actually really cool. I mean, because so many times I think people come, especially to Arizona, and try to assimilate. And so I'm happy to hear that more and more people are wanting to develop community based on those origins.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that was one of the fun things of being in New York was being able to drop into all these communities
Right.
that were globally represented. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. All right. So what percentage does the Asian Pacific Islander community make up in Arizona?
Yeah, and this one's 3.7. Answer is B. So this actually kind of goes well within the previous question. But again, we make up a very small percentage of Arizona's population, but the Asian community in itself is the fastest growing out of any ethnic group. I want to say from 2010 up until 2020, there's been like a 56.7% growth in just the Asian population alone. So we are the fastest growing, even though again we do make up a small fraction of the community, and that's why, you know, with Arizona being as large as it is, especially with the Phoenix metro area, there you don't oftentimes see a lot of people who are like, you know, share the same like cultural background as you. So transitioning over to like a university level or even like a community college level, it can be like a big shock just seeing how tight the community can be, and knowing that there even is a community out there for everyone. Yeah.
No, and I think that's really great that all these communities are forming. And I mean, and I think it's like you've got like the semiconductor factory going up in North Phoenix
Hmm.
that's Taiwanese. So it's like you have all these different things that are starting to happen that are bringing more folks here.
Yeah, like TSMC is a really big economic incubator for us, right? With the semiconductors that they'll be, and even like all the housing that they're going to be developing just for the families for that factory, opening up and like moving here from Taiwan. Actually, one of my friends is over in Taiwan. He's been there for the past 3 months to train under TSMC so that he can come back here and start working full time for them. So they're opening up so many more like job opportunities for everyone here in the community. And again, they're a really big company as well. And actually, I do want to share before I forget this fact. I did just find this out earlier today, and I figure it'll be a really good thing to share. So this is kind of tying back to the Asian district in itself. But back in 2022, pre-pandemic or even amidst the pandemic, the total revenue for all the businesses in the Asian district area made $3.04 million. And then as recorded as of last year, it has changed from 3.86. So over the course of those 2 years, there's been a 27.2% change in the overall gross revenue that all the businesses generated.
Well, I think, I mean, and really, I think designating that Asian district has really helped in just that awareness. I mean,
Mhm.
and I mean, not to like shout up to, but I mean, but now 85 degrees and Dioso now opening up. I mean, it's kind of like now so many folks who weren't going are now going and then shopping at so many of those other markets. I mean, so it really is an economic engine, and one store will attract a group.
Mhm. Yeah, and especially with H Mart there too. Like H Mart is that kind of big Asian grocery store franchise that is usually in all the major cities. So the fact that they opened up right in the middle of the Asian district as well is a huge, again, economic engine.
Right. And right across from the Stone. So, all right. So let's see. All right. So who was the first Asian American actor in Hollywood?
Randy, you want to say the name?
Yes, it is Anna May Wong, B. It's you, Anthony.
Yeah, so with this one too, a big thing that a lot of, or especially in our time in APAS, right? This was pre-pandemic, so it was pre like Stop Asian Hate movement and through all the hate crimes. But a big thing that we were really advocating for as a community was our betrayal in media. So before recent years, there's been a lot of like the perpetual it's called perpetual foreigner, the stereotype that's attached to it, and oftentimes that is the roles that Asian Americans played in a lot of like movies and TV shows and such, where they were oftentimes just like the nerdy person, or like the foreigner that barely knew English. So and it's gone. I just wanted to kind of bring it into modern day, because now we have movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's Shang-Chi. There's a lot better representation of Asian Americans in modern day media. And again, that was our main focal point of advocating during that time, and it's great to see how much it has grown over the years.
Right, and that's actually how I first found the Stone. Was Terry Tang had done a Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
basically bringing in young Asian chefs, talking about what it was like trying to have a business during the pandemic. And it was so interesting, and hearing them all talk, and then it was like, and then going to dinner at some of them and connecting with Laura. And so then I was like, Laura, I'm having such a great experience here. Let's try and do something different. And so so literally with that one Zoom, that's where it's like, hey, Laura, let's try and do a luncheon thing here. That would be really fun. So I'm so glad we're getting to do that.
Yeah, and actually, it's really cool. So you were actually in that Zoom meeting as well?
Yeah, so I was one of the audience members. So
Oh.
and it was so much fun hearing folks talking, because again, it was kind of like that different perspective of what the pandemic was like for so many folks.
Mhm.
I mean, like I've got someone who is in Shanghai and has been there through the pandemic. And so yeah, so all right. So I always love to kind of end with asking people, how did they do? And here we'll do that. So, I mean, I always say it's like, it's not how many you got right, but oh my gosh, so much global, local history that was really fun, fascinating. Does the chamber have any events coming up?
We have two coming up, and it's very, very soon. We have one coming up in this upcoming Saturday. It's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. and it's going to be at Flaming Pig. So right outside your door, Marshall.
Indeed, it's right up the street.
Yeah, so Flaming Pig is one of the Asian businesses there that serve authentic Filipino food. So if you guys never been, come join us. We're offering community discounts to anyone who comes by. We have a really great menu prepared for you guys over there too. And it's just more of us, just getting together and just to really meet each other for the first time or for the third time. But our community is really close. And then also this upcoming Wednesday, we're having one at the Arizona Historical Museum over in Tempe, and that one is going to be for it's called Rebuilding Home Plate, which is an exhibit that they had made regarding baseballs or the Japanese internment camp influence on modern baseball, in a sense.
Oh, very cool. Now, is there a chamber in Tucson?
There isn't, no, but we do have organizations out there that we work very closely with. We're actually hoping to eventually do like a night market over in Tucson as well, because Jim Shi, the original founder of the Asian Chamber, he's actually from Tucson. He's been really wanting to go back out there. So, yeah, we really want to do something more out there.
Well, so kind of what I'm hoping is that the event we're doing on Tuesday becomes like the boilerplate to do other events kind of across the state using global food as a way to introduce new cultures to people. Mm-hmm. And last time I was in Tucson, someone introduced me to 7 Cups, this amazing tiny Chinese tea house with the menu of like 100 teas, where it's like they bring you the whole little ceremony. It was like they had the teapot that they fill full of water. They then put the lid on, pour more water on it so it keeps temperature. And it was such an amazing experience that's kind of the next one I do. If so, I would love to do something down in Tucson, just because, again, 7 Cups. And I had this amazing, it was a black sesame strawberry like cookie that I was just nibbling on because it was so good. I didn't want to take a big bite because I think I got 2 cookies, but they were so good. Oh my gosh. And it's a husband and wife that run it. And so, yeah, so I really, and they can do like a group. So I'm like, okay, that's like the next thing I want to do down there.
Has it been there for a while in Tucson?
I don't know. The friend that took me was actually a prior guest, and that's when I found out about it. So yeah, so she does a lot of stuff with tea. And so we started chatting about tea on the show, and I was like, oh, and I guess the whole name of that comes from, you keep doing more water in the leaves, and the 7th pour is supposed to be the best pour.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So we only got to, I think we got 3 pots of tea. I think we only got to 5 pours. So, but again, it was an amazing experience, and it was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I need to go check that place out.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my list.
That was my sentence. She was talking about it. I'm like, and then you get there, and it's like, page after page, it's like a diner of nothing but tea.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it was. I hadn't seen anything like that since like New York, where you just had that many teas that were curated, and they could tell you about each tea.
Gosh. We need to get them out here in Phoenix.
That's what I was like, that was kind of my, like, so when are you gonna be opening up one in the northern part of the state. So yeah. So I will definitely let you guys know next time I'm going down there, because I think it would be a fun place to do an event.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
100%.
okay, so we've got the event coming up on Saturday at the Flaming Pig. How else can people find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, so we have a website. It is azasianchamber.com. And then we also have social media, so you can find us on Facebook or Instagram as well, azasianchamber.com. Pretty much just anything with the ACC logo is pretty much us. But yeah, we have a website, Facebook, and Instagram that you can find us on.
Wow. Thank you two so much for coming on and sharing. I love that there are all these comments I've been reading, like, oh, this is like one of the best shows, best show. So Brandon, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on and providing such great history of global and local.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
You too.
And I will see you on Saturday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See you then.
All right. Good night. Oh my gosh. That was so much fun. Wow. And I love that I might wind up living in their international district. I was like, the hair on my arm is standing up at that idea. Oh my gosh. How great is that? All right. So now we get to From the Vault. And so it's something you may or might not drive by. I mean, so I did the Route 66 fun run a couple weekends ago with all the electric vehicles, and as well as about 800 classic cars. And so it was a lot of fun. And we at one point drove by, we didn't get a chance to stop, but we drove right by Parker. And so on our way to Quartzsite. And so if you do get a chance to stop in Parker, there is the Poston Memorial Monument that basically, because of where it is, there were over 17,000 persons of Japanese ancestry, most of whom were U.S. citizens that were put into internment camps. And from 1942 to 1945. Because it was felt that they were a threat to national security. And so this monument was built in the early 90s. It is on Colorado River Indian tribal land. And it's got a big concrete pillar in the middle with plaques around it. That is to signify unity. But then I love the fact that there are 12 kind of concrete posts around it that basically turn this then into a sundial for the passing of time. So I think that's really cool that it's a sundial that also talks about this history and times and how it's moving forward and getting better and better. So if you're ever out in that neck of the woods, please check it out. And now you'll see why I always say, if you're watching on Facebook, be sure and click that share button, because we have such a great time with Arizona history. People think it's boring, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination. And so next week, I'm happy to say we have Newell Giuliano, who's coming on as our guest. And so that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So, and Brandy, it's like the rain you said was in your neck of the woods is now in my neck of the woods. I can hear it out my office window. So I'm sure it's a little bit cooler out there now as well. So now you'll see why, also, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you have storage comments, I love to hear from you all, because that's how I get some of my best stuff, is from you all. I always love to give a shout out to Cole and Chris for that intro video, and as well as for PJ for my cocktail, my Scottsdale Spritz. And we are going to go out with, so a future guest is going to be Baseline Flowers. So we did a bit for Local Buzz, and so that is going to be our outro video, is that. Have a good night all, and I'll see you next week.
Hey, Local Buzz, Marshall Shore, the hip historian here, and we are here at Baseline Flowers, and we have Kathy Nakagawa. And so the reason why we're here is because the history, you'll see the sign behind me that says flowers. This is the last trace of what, for almost 50 years, was an iconic scene in Phoenix. Being able to drive along Baseline and see these flower fields, growing flowers that people were buying. They were shipped all over the world. And it really evolved out of, you had farmers that sadly were then sent to Japanese internment camps. They came back and reestablished their farms, their families, and started a whole new life, again, creating what was a point of pride for Phoenix. And so you can come here, take a look at some flowers, buy some flowers, look at this great little gift shop. We're down here on Baseline and 38th Street, so come on down and visit. So this is why you should like, follow, share, because here on Local Buzz, we're going to be bringing you more history and lots of Arizona love.